In order to break cycles, intentional actions must be taken to stop patterns, behaviors, and thoughts that are harmful to oneself, their families, and the community. Welcome to the official launch of Carry to Full Term's Breaking Cycles podcast. We will highlight the work that we have been doing to reduce the number of women who are pregnant and homeless in our community, to share our stories and those of our partners who through their actions and support have helped countless women learn to break harmful patterns in an effort to become independent and self-sufficient and to stabilize their families. Welcome to Carry to Full Term's Breaking Cycles podcast. On any given night in the United States, more than 47,000 women and children experience homelessness. We have been doing this work since 2014 to reduce the number of women and children currently experiencing homelessness within our communities and throughout the United States. 2 months ago, we celebrated our 7th anniversary. This success is due in large part to the generosity of our donors and sponsors. In studio today, we have a friend, partner, and donor, Elizabeth Stafford. And she's been a friend and volunteer and supporter since the beginning when we initially opened our doors. Elizabeth is a licensed clinical social work supervisor. She earned her Master of Social Work degree from Virginia Commonwealth University. She also holds 2 other bachelor's degrees, both in political science and communication. She's accepting and affirming to all people, and we're happy to have her here in studio with us. Join me in extending a warm welcome to our friend, partner, and guest, Elizabeth Stafford. Good morning and welcome to our first episode of the Breaking Cycles podcast, Carry to Full Term discussion platform to tell our stories, to hear encouraging stories from others, to learn about more about our supporters, why we do the work that we do, what is the motivation behind the support that we receive. And in studio this morning, we have Elizabeth Stafford, our first guest, which of course is so appropriate because she was like one of our first volunteers, one of our first large donors, one of our first long-term friends, one of our first monthly partners. So it's so appropriate. And we actually didn't even plan it this way, but you have had so many firsts with us. So this is appropriate that you are our first guest on the Breaking Cycles podcast. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. I'm very excited to be here, and I love the work that you're doing, the work you've done, and it's always just been a true joy to support you through that.
Thank you. I remember the first day you came. We were next door, and at the time, our focus really wasn't breaking cycles. Mm-hmm. So we've just celebrated our 7th year, and over those 7 years, we have come to realize that for us to get our residents to independence and self-sufficiency, we have to first tackle breaking cycles of trauma and different things that allow them to arrive at this place. And I remember when you came the first time, you came to find out. You came with one of your children. You may have had 2 of them, but I remember you came with one of your children, and you had questions, and we worked it out. We were so busy because everything was so brand new, but you came back, and you kept coming back. And when we were getting the donations, we would pile it all upstairs
in the attic. Yes.
In the back room. And after a while, we recognized that wasn't going to work. So we needed to sort that out. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things that you started doing was helping us organize that space. And that's when I was running back and forth. And I remember one day I just came up, you were nursing your baby, and we just sat down and we spoke. And that's the first time I had like a really personal conversation with you that wasn't just like a flash drive-by comment or response to something. And I think that's when our relationship began. And I think that was in 2017, and here we are in 2023. And I just want to share that I'm so appreciative of you, and I can't wait for us to talk a little bit more about the series of events that have happened over the years since then with you. But I want to say thank you. And I appreciate how you've stuck by me, how you've encouraged me. We've had conversations. You've mobilized fundraisers. You've had referred moms that you've built relationships with. So I guess I will just start with the first question. What was the motivation that prompted you not to just hear about this new organization, this new thing in the community, but made you take action to get more involved?
Oh, well, first of all, I appreciate all of that. I was actually just telling a story about that this morning on my way here when I was on the phone. And I remember it was so hot up there, and I had my baby strapped to my back. And I think, I don't remember which time it was, but I had, so I have 4 children now. I had 3 children at the time, and I had my 2 others with me as well, because I just wanted them to be involved too. And I remember my son, he was probably around a year old. He was on my back, and we were both just sweating. And you know how babies sweat when they're strapped to you.
Yes.
So, I really appreciate the sacrifices that you've made and the vision that you've had and the love that you've had for these women and children. And you know, for me, the motivation has always been, we hear the rhetoric day in and day out about, you know, the pro-life movement and, you know, you see very hateful things written and it's so politicized.
Yeah.
But behind this issue are many, many women.
Yeah.
There aren't women out there who want to be in a situation in which they have really no good options for raising their children.
Yeah.
And so we need to provide that environment for women where they can feel safe. They can have the resources they need, which oftentimes are tangible resources. Yeah. But like you're talking about with the cycle breaking, the intangibles, the love, the support, the security, so that they can form those healthy attachments with their babies, which will then help break the cycle for their children. Yeah. Because what we know now, the majority of the neural pathways that are created in humans are actually created in the first couple of years. And when there isn't adequate care given to young children, later in life, they don't have the brain development necessary to form proper relationships. Yeah. And so that truly is kind of the root of the cycle that we see in trauma. If you have never been parented properly, you don't know how to parent.
Yes, and it's so unfortunate that message is lost, and there's just a deficiency, and if you don't know, you don't know, and if you're not aware, you're just not aware until it shows up as a parent, and then you're judged, their expectations placed on you, and so I appreciate, wow, this depth that you've just brought to this conversation because. Child development is important, when moms have their babies and they get that skin to skin touch, and it immediately nurtures the child, it nurtures the baby. And that's what we've seen here. Mm-hmm. That's what we've experienced over the years. So you are absolutely right. Our focus, we've shifted because on paper, there was this amazing program behind this mission to house women and their children. And then you actually start getting the women and the babies actually start being born. And then you see everything you've just said. Mm-hmm. You see that they're not probably lacking the knowledge and the ability. And so our program needed to be modified. Changes need to take place. And so, yes, since then we've stacked it with parenting classes, with trauma care courses, with anger management. And then we have to now deal with financial management because we have to introduce, stability. And so the average age here is about 24, 25 years old. And so imagine now having to break all those coping mechanism and living in survival mode that they've lived in for the last 24 and 25 years. We become chaotic to them.
Right.
And so I thank you so much for taking action. And I apologize so much that your baby was hot because as you said it hasn't cooled up. It hasn't cooled up that much, but we've cleared that area and we've now converted that little back room into an actually cozy space. And what we've learned, to go back to what you've said, some of the moms that we get cannot manage the large spaces. Mm-hmm. So that little space in the back is really perfect for some of the moms that are not really able to manage and organize and keep their lives ordered in a larger space. And then the front space where you initially started with, you and your son started, that has now been converted into a 2-bed space.
Okay.
And so we've made a lot of changes in the last 7 years. But from what you've already started to share, you have also experienced a lot of changes. You recently graduated with your master's. You're now a licensed clinical social worker. Tell me a little bit, did the previous years, did that influence? I do know you have a heart for serving our community and our children. So this is not a surprise to me because I've seen your work transpire over the years and the different organizations that you've gotten involved in. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so I originally did nonprofit fundraising prior to being a mom. And then, like I said, I have 4 children, so I took time off to raise my children. And then right before COVID hit, actually, I was at a roundtable in DC that was hosted by the Prison Fellowship and the mayor's office. And the focus of the discussion was individuals sharing their stories about re-entering society after being incarcerated. Yeah. And one story hit me really, really hard. And it was a woman who had grown up in DC, very urban environment. She had been given a knife at the age of 9 by her father and had been told, out here, you either kill or be killed. Wow. And by the age of 17, she had 2 children, and she did kill. There was a situation that transpired, and it, self-defense or kind of that fear response, those details are a little bit unclear, but she did end up, killing another individual and spent the next 25 years incarcerated. And during that time, she actually finished her high school education because she had dropped out of high school. She then went to college, and then after completing college in prison, she actually pursued and completed a PhD.
Wow.
And she wrote a book about her experiences, and I bought that book that night because I was so touched by her story. And she said, no one ever taught me how to properly handle my emotions and my fear and my anger. And I was incarcerated for my children's entire life.
Goodness.
Yes. And she said, it's basically been my mission to help others that are in a similar situation. And so we can't expect individuals to behave in what we would consider a typical way when they're growing up in such atypical circumstances. And just that line, kill or be killed, it was very black and white to her. Yeah. So although her story is somewhat of a success, I mean, she has lost so many years of her life. And it was at that point that I decided to go back to school to pursue a master's degree so that I could, provide mental health services. So that was a turning point for me, a very pivotal moment in my life. And so, that was the motivation. I knew if I was going to be spending time away from my children, I wanted that time to be something worthwhile, that I could feel like at the end of the day, okay, I didn't just push paper from one desk to the other.
Oh, wow. That is, okay, so the kill or be killed. I'm trying to manage my emotions, but what a lesson to be given and to learn and to internalize at 9 years old.
At 9 years old, I know.
That's really hard. And I appreciate how, that all that resonated with you. And then that's what I've appreciated about you. It's from the day that we met that you put action behind your conviction. And not just to, like you were saying, pushing paper, but we've benefited from your time as a volunteer. We've benefited from your experience as a nonprofit fundraiser. We've benefited from your conviction and your commitment as a monthly donor. And all of the the time and the finances and the expertise that you've invested into Carry to Full Term, all that has been directly delivered and have been felt, and the lives of the women that are here, they've been impacted. And so your giving keeps giving. Generations have been changed. I actually, during the time that you were here, I just met with two of the moms who graduated from our program, and they're now looking to open a business.
Wow.
And it's because you took them, your support and your generosity and your action behind your conviction, took them from homelessness to independence, to self-sufficiency, to now contributing citizens in our community. They stayed in the community because they said this is where they developed the relationships. And now potential business owners in the... This is what the reason for this conversation platform is, to highlight these stories, is to highlight citizens like yourself, to highlight partners and friends of Carry to Full Term who, outside or beyond the talking points, like you were saying, providing intangibles to these women and giving them the support that is now converted into them being the contributors that we hope that the investment, would produce. So I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you. In your role that you are now in as a licensed clinical social worker, what are some of the support that you're providing to the community or to your clients?
So I am just joined a practice that focuses on substance abuse treatment. And it is kind of a full scope. There's intensive outpatient treatment, weekly one-on-one therapy, group meetings, and other, psychiatric med management, things like that. Because what we're seeing right now is there is such an uptick in substance use. We have children in the program as young as 8 years old that have been experimenting with substances such as drugs and alcohol. And it's very disheartening to think about. Childhood is a very fleeting time and one that you cannot repeat. And so really, where I am, we really want to give the younger children, adolescents, the tools so that we're not seeing them at 30, 40, 50 years old, when so much more time has passed. And like I said, you can never get that time back. We're seeing it, permeate throughout this society with the opioid epidemic, but then also vaping, using marijuana through vaping methods especially. And it is very pervasive, especially in like the middle school age.
Middle school?
Middle school. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I thought you were going to hit like a different age demographic, but I wasn't expecting to hear middle school. One of the things that we talk about here a lot at Carry to Full Term is giving our babies a good first start in life. And everything that you've just shared, it's what we're aspiring to do. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for your time. What do you see yourself now that you're in a season of out of school and servicing your community? What do you see in the next 3 to 5 years for yourself?
Honestly, I am not sure. One thing that I've been in talks with the CEO of the practice that I joined is to head up the nonprofit area of the practice. Because as we know, when individuals are seeking treatment, if you don't have a lot of money, it's almost impossible to get really holistic care. If you're a user of 15 years, once a week for an hour is not going to give you the tools necessary to overcome your addiction. Also focusing on those, the dual diagnoses, like people that struggle with substance abuse are also struggling with other mental health concerns. And unless we treat the root cause, we're never going to be able to overcome the addiction. So that's kind of where I'm focused in the next couple of years. I would like to, continue to be involved with Carry to Full Term. I have a little bit more time on my hands now than I have the last couple of years. So I believe in the mission that you have. I think that you have a clear vision for what the needs of this population are. And it's not a quick fix.
Correct.
There is not a magic pill
Agreed.
to break generational trauma and those patterns that we see. So it's the time, it's the years of investment in these individuals, and it's building that love and trust.
Yes.
Because many of these women have never had those type of relationships before.
Correct.
And their brains literally are not wired for connection.
I appreciate you sharing that, because it is very hard, and it's very the journey is long in terms of trying to get women who are in a crisis situation, not having stable housing, not knowing what's going to happen to themselves and their children. One of the things that we do here is we take the burden off, like the barriers to housing, to stability, to holistic care. We do our very best to take the burden and reduce the barriers for them to be able to come into this program. They could stay here for 2 years. Several of the moms that we take, they're coming from backgrounds where there are dual diagnoses involved. There are multiple, actually, needs that they have in terms of, emotional care, mental health care, medication, health, attending to their health and the maternal health, and advocating for, to reduce maternal mortality amongst our population. So I wanted to ask you, one, what, in terms, you touched on it, you said 1 hour a week, every other week is not going to take care of it. 3 months in a long-term residential program offering all this wraparound service is what the term that the county likes to use, so that they're more familiar with what we do. But 3 months is not going to change 25 years. So what are some of the barriers you see outside of not enough time in the service that you're providing for your clients? And then if people want to get in touch with you, or if they want to explore services, I don't know if you're able to offer information or just getting in contact with you, because there is an urgent need, and we see it in the residents that we support here and in the calls that we get that have nothing to do with needing housing.
Right. So, like you said, my name is Elizabeth Stafford. I am working with the Williams Center in Leesburg. So not too far, up 15. We do take insurance, and so accessible to a lot of people. Barriers to care, I mean, it's all around. It's everywhere, from a personal barrier, just not even really understanding what the potential resources are out there for yourself, or those resources being not available due to a great demand, to just kind of the societal pressure and expectation and kind of shunning of people that are experiencing homelessness. We want to look away from these individuals. We want to point the finger at their choices.
Yes.
It's easy to judge. However, any of us are one mistake away from a completely different life. And there are none of us out here who haven't made mistakes in the past. Yeah. Some of our mistakes just haven't led to catastrophic consequences. But when an individual is already kind of living on that bubble, if one thing goes awry, it's a snowball effect.
Yeah, when housing goes away.
Or a car breaks down.
Exactly.
Or and then you can't get your job, and then you can't make your rent payment. It can be a very simple thing that can lead to life-altering consequences.
I appreciate you sharing that, because as a result of COVID, we get calls, and just from a variety of ways, people have been impacted. If they were, the survivors of COVID and have now long COVID, and they can't work steady jobs, or the primary financial earner in the family passed away, and they're now experiencing homelessness. You're absolutely one medical issue, and the residents that we serve here, I agree, it's easy to judge. It's easy to have preformed or conditioned mindsets about the population that we serve. But, like you said earlier, a lot of the individuals that we serve here, they're either born into the situation.
Correct, right.
They are fleeing abuse at home, which is one of the areas I like to underscore, because in the family of origin, the highest percentage of individuals that we serve are due to a result of fleeing their family of origin, and that's not talked about a lot. And a lot of, like you're saying, judgment, a lot of beliefs that is forecasting judgment as opposed to service with conditions. And we experience a lot of it. So I appreciate you just allowing us to explore that in greater detail. 2, thank you for sharing your organization, and I will definitely share the website and the information so that individuals could get support. And 4, taking insurance. We have had an issue recently of our residents not being able to get a lot of the care, the basic care they need, because a lot of organizations are not taking their insurance. So thank you for coming alongside us since 2017. Thank you for staying with us through our 7th year journey. We just celebrated our 7th anniversary on June 6th. Thank you for the financial support. Thank you for the relationship. Thank you for advocating for our moms. Thank you for supporting our moms directly, not just from a distance, but for being present, ensuring that we are, and providing good care, good support, attention to their needs. Thank you for just being a long-term friend of Carry to Full Term, and I thank you so much for sharing how your life has evolved and what you're going to do in the future. We look forward to continuing our friendship with you. And say hello to your family, your lovely kids.
I will. Thank you.
And for really underscoring and modeling for them the importance of volunteerism. And I've seen you with your second from I think he was 9 months old, that you had him strapped to your body, and it's in his DNA. It's the example that you've set for him. So I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
We loved having you.
Oh, I loved being here. This was so fun and great to catch up with you.
Yes, and we hope to have you back.
Of course, anytime.
Yes, we look forward to it. And tell us one more time the center where you're working at in Leesburg?
Yeah, I'm at the Williams Center in Leesburg, Virginia.
The Williams Center. So Emily will get that information published, and if that's okay with the center, and then we'll have it posted on our walls so that anyone in need of those services that you offer, substance abuse, all the other. And I appreciate you shoring up the nonprofit arm of that organization, because there's an urgent need and there's a shortage of counselors, and so I appreciate that. Thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
No problem. I'll see you next time.
We love having you. Thank you. All right, bye-bye.
You have been listening to the Carry to Full Term Breaking Cycles podcast. To learn more about our organization, visit us online at carrytofullterm.org. Your host has been Frances Robin. Marketing director has been Emily Enox. Music was provided by Ryan Robin. Thank you for joining us. Visit us again at carrytofullterm.org to learn more about our mission.